Once in a generation, a band comes along that breaks boundaries, charts new musical territory, and achieves unparalleled success. This is not the story of that band.
This band, like no other band in the history of rock and roll. If you can imagine the best band you've ever seen, these guys were much, much worse.
Nobody had ever done the things they did. They were groundbreaking. They aimed lower than anyone had ever aimed before, and they missed.
There was something tragic about these five people coming together to create some of the most forgettable tunes ever heard within a 3-mile radius of the George pub in Trottiscliffe, one of the Kent's most popular pubs, with a full selection of beers, wines, most importantly, cherry brandy. Not forgetting the fantastic menu of the best quality food and great prices.
When I first met David and Stephen, they were busking in Lewisham, performing reggae versions of Pet Shop Boys songs on the panpipes. And we went on to create so much memorable music. Sometimes we let Steve join in.
The band started out as Lowline, an unpopular Southeast London combo, achieving such little success that original drummer Derek Pine faked a skiing injury in order to leave the band via telephone.
Yeah, when Derek disappeared overnight due to a blatantly non-existent skiing injury, we had to improvise. Steve moved from keyboards onto drums and became what I guess you'd call a musical pioneer. I mean, no one had ever heard an out-of-tune drum kit until then.
The band quickly realised they needed to expand beyond both of the chords that Danny Wybrow could almost play. So they added 14-year-old guitar whiz kid Dan Dryden, who brought with him a single riff, a riff which he ended up using in every song they created from that point on.
I remember when I first met Dan, he was in the rehearsal room and he just started like twinkling this little riff. And I was like, that is going to sit in a tune somewhere. Unfortunately, it sat in a tune everywhere. Same song, same riff, time and time and time again. I mean, he used to say to me, like, it's quality, not quantity. What a lazy prick.
That's when things really accelerated. This era of creativity produced songs that had zero appeal to anyone, including friends and family members. A one-off live video was shot by MTV, the result of a favour that was instantly regretted by not only the entire crew, but by anyone who ever saw it. From there, the band catapulted onto the world stage with a 2-night tour of San Francisco.
Yeah, the first night of the tour was amazing. We'd never seen a crowd like it. I mean, a lot of them had their own teeth. And I think the novelty of us being British managed to distract of how shit we were. Well, for at least the first 2 songs.
Oh man, what a time we had. When they got to America, I drove them around, sorted them out with gigs, and introduced them to all my friends. Yeah, everybody came out to support them. I mean, looking back on it now, it was probably the lowest point of my life. Shit, some of those people don't even talk to me anymore. I mean, who could blame them?
By the closing night of the tour, 24 hours later, audience sizes had fallen dramatically. The band identified that having Steve on keyboards instead of drums was the lesser of 2 evils, as at least the keyboard could be turned down. This created a vacancy. By sheer coincidence, when they returned to the UK, the circus happened to be in town, and this vacancy was partially filled when the band stumbled across Cockney bongo miracle Frankie Orrell.
Frankie loved the band the moment he joined. He really loved the guys. He looked up to everyone, literally everyone.
He loved banging along to the music, sometimes even in time. The only problem was, when Frankie joined the band, he didn't have his own kit. So we all chipped in and we got him one from the early learning centre.
in the hope of one day he would grow into it.
And this was the point the classic lineup was formed. Dave, Danny, Dan and Frank, and Steve. It was at this time that they decided they would need a new name if they were going to achieve the level of mediocrity that they barely aspired to.
We didn't know what to call ourselves, so we spent weeks thinking of different names. We were all a bit bad, we just kept getting worse, so it ended up being the Riding Lights. Riding Shites would have been more like it.
The band recruited a local saxophone abuser known only as Denzil, who helped them plunge new musical depths. Gig after gig followed, and by the time those 3 gigs were done, it was clear the cracks were appearing.
We weren't getting on. We had musical differences, mainly because none of us could play in tune. We started to really abuse each other. Some terrible, spiteful things were said in the heat of the moment. Thankfully, we're all past that. But back then, we started really to fall out, just like Steve's hair.
I think it fell apart because of drugs, mainly lack of drugs. When things reached a point where audiences were sobering up, when the drugs didn't take the edge off and numb the pain, people actually listened to our songs and realised they were shit.
I think it's fair to say that things were never really the same after that. You know, we did the occasional charity gig, but even the North Kent Hedgehog Sanctuary had grown tired of the negative publicity at that point.
The band finally split, reuniting only once in the next 10 years, to destroy Friend's wedding reception held in a marquee at the George, one of Kent's most popular pubs. Since then, the band members have had little contact, but for those who saw them in their prime, there's always the thought that they may one day reform, and the hope that day never comes. The Riding Lights.
Dan's biggest talent. Dan's biggest talent. I'll have to ask my wife that. Babe, what's Dan's biggest talent?